And so we are in a state of emergency.
Okay, white supremacist violence is and always has been the number one threat to our society.
But I'm also very proud that my wife is white.
The Breakfast Club, bitches.
All right, Charlamagne, please tell me, why was I your donkey of the day?
Well, I'm about to tell everybody, okay? Donkey of the day for Wednesday, May 5th. Cinco de Mayo! Goes to 4 individuals. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican State Representative Ray Garofalo of Louisiana, Tennessee State Representative Justin Lafferty, and Colorado State Republican Ron Hanks. Okay, if you have any allergic reactions to sodium, don't listen to this Donkey of the Day because the mayonnaise is heavy with this one.
Too much goddamn mayonnaise.
Too much goddamn mayonnaise. Let the record show Charlamagne the God, Uncle Charla, Brother Leonard, whatever you want to call me, is on record. It's saying the greatest threat to this country is and always will be old white men in politics. Okay, see, the great extraterrestrial philosopher Thanos said it perfectly when he said, as long as there are those who remember what was, there will always be those who cannot accept what can be. That right there is old white male politicians in a nutshell on both sides. Okay, I don't trust any of them because they're used to being at the top of this caste system in America. And one thing about power, you don't want to relinquish it when you've had it. And trust me when I tell you that these old white males in politics see 2040 around the corner and they are losing their minds because of it. What is 2040? Well, white Americans are projected to be less than 50% of the population. Don't think for 1 second that fear of a black and brown planet isn't making old white men lose their minds. Trust me, if there were some infinity stones out there to be collected, they would be looking for them right now so they can snap our black and brown asses back to wherever the hell we came from, okay? If they could erase us from history, they absolutely would. Case in point, what they are currently trying to do with the 1619 Project. If you have never read the New York Times 1619 Project, do yourself the biggest favor and go do that, okay? Read it, listen to the podcast, take it in however you can. It came out in 2019 on the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved Africans to America, Virginia to be exact, and the 1619 Project accurately depicted the consequences of slavery and the contributions of black people in this country. Salute to Nicole Hannah-Jones. Dropping the clues bombs from Nicole Hannah-Jones for writing something so impactful that it has made its way into American classrooms, okay? Teach the truth to the youth. Let them know we built this country for free and this country owes us for the work we put in, okay? And do you know how I know the 1619 Project is the truth? Because the white man is trying to stop it. Okay, yes, with all that's going on in America, as fragile as America is right now, Mitch McConnell and 40 other Senate Republicans wrote a letter to federal education officials to drop a proposed effort to prioritize history education programs that address systemic racism. They call it a politicized and divisive agenda. They say families did not ask for this divisive nonsense. Voters didn't vote for it. Americans never decided our children should be taught that our country is inherently evil. Oh, this is good stuff. Okay, the reason it's good stuff is because when you hear what these folks are saying, you see why they never taught the enslaved to read or write and why they would punish you if they caught you reading or writing, because they don't want you to know the truth. And as long as old white men can tell you his story instead of accurate history, he can keep his foot on our necks. Let's start with Mitch McConnell. Okay, on Monday, he said that he doesn't think 1619 is one of the most important points in U.S. history. Listen.
This is about American history and the most important dates in American history. And my view, and I think most Americans think, dates like 1776, the Declaration of Independence, 1787, the Constitution, 1861 to 1865, the Civil War, or sort of the basic tenets of American history. There are a lot of exotic notions about what are the most important points in American history. I simply disagree with the notion that the New York Times laid out there that the year 1619 was one of those years.
I disagree. How was 1619 not important, okay? Without slavery, the U.S. would not have become a leading economic power. All right, that cotton that became the world's largest commodity, without forced migration and forced labor, that doesn't happen. So yes, that year has to be probably the most important year because the work of the enslaved is what established the USA as a world economic power. Now, Ray Garofalo was arguing against the 1619 Project, or what he calls the divisive teaching on race, and he said this.
if you're having a discussion on whatever the case may be on slavery, then you can talk about everything dealing with slavery, the good, the bad, the ugly,
There's no good to slavery, though.
Well, then whatever the case may be.
There is no other case, Ray. That's it. Period. Full stop. If you find the good in slavery, it's because you're only looking at it from the perspective of the slave master. If you, the slave master, wouldn't trade places with the enslaved, even for a day, there is no good in it, period, okay? This stuff gets better, man. You had a couple of GOP lawmakers pushing back on the 1619 project, and they decided to address the 3/5 compromise. You know the 3/5 compromise, where they counted every enslaved black person as 3/5 of a human. Okay, this is a Republican representative named Ron Hanks discussing the 3/5 compromise. Listen.
Being called Mr. Lynch might be a good thing for what I'm about to say. No, just kidding.
That's right. Let's stop right there. And the reason I wanted to stop right there and don't get to him talking about the 3/5 compromise, because there's nothing to talk about when you're making jokes about lynching, okay? These are our lawmakers, ladies and gentlemen, old white males in politics who start off their points making jokes about lynching. But according to Tim Scott, Kamala Harris, and OG Jim Clyburn, America is not a racist country. Okay, my last old white male politician I'm bringing to the stand is Justin Lafferty, okay? He is a lawmaker in Tennessee who is arguing that the 3/5 compromise should be held up as a positive but bitter part of U.S. history, and that the bill would prohibit critical race theory from being taught in Tennessee public schools. Listen.
The 3/5 compromise was a direct effort to ensure that Southern states never got the population necessary to continue the practice of slavery everywhere else in the country. What does that mean? Appropriation based on population. That's how we pick. Everybody in here knows we've got 9 state representatives. By limiting the number of population in the count, they specifically limited the number of representatives that would be available in the slaveholding states, and they did it for the purpose of ending slavery well before Abraham Lincoln, well before a Civil War. Do we talk about that? I don't hear that anywhere in this conversation across the country. I don't know how we've gotten here. I don't know what we do about it, but talking about changing our history, changing's not the right word. Talking about incorporating another view of history while ignoring the very writings that we have access to is no way to go about it. Start with the truth. Start with what happened. Start with how we got here, and then let's move forward.
That's Justin. They are telling the truth, but you can't handle the truth. You don't want the real history of America told. None of y'all do, because then folks will start asking for what they're owed. This your Uncle Charlotte talking. I think they're trying to revise history just so they don't have to have the conversation about reparations because they know they owe. It's just intellectually dishonest to say you want the truth of American history but then want to dismiss the 1619 project. You can't heal what you don't reveal. Okay, a country really invested in healing would tell the truth about its history, acknowledge the truth, and then plan with the people it wronged on how to fix it. Okay, salute to the good brother Antonio Parkinson. He's the chairman of the Black Caucus in the Tennessee House. He worded it perfect when he said Lafferty's comments were offensive, and he said, and I quote, "It is impossible to defend policies that protect slavery and fail to account for the full humanity of black people. I don't care if it's policy or how you're counting heads, there is nothing good about slavery." That's it. Full stop. Nothing else to discuss. Why are all politicians lying? Okay? You got black elected officials saying America is not a racist country. And to them I say, well, what is this? Huh? You got old white male politicians telling us there was good aspects to slavery. The 3/5 compromise should be held up as a positive, and 1619 just wasn't that important of a year. Well, if 1619 wasn't that important of a year, why the hell are y'all going so hard to stop people from teaching about it? Please let Chelsea Handler give Mitch McConnell, Ray Garofalo, Ron Hanks, and Justin Lafferty the biggest hee-haw.
Hee-haw, hee-haw. That is way too much Dan mayonnaise.
Kathy Griffin, you got anything you want to add to this?
Please give this giant jar of mayo the biggest hee-haw.
That's all?
Cracker ass, cracker.
Oh, Chris, why does Chris is so crazy?
Snuck in there.
He's so crazy. Okay.
Donkey of the Day is brought to you by the law office of Michael S. Lamonsoff. Don't be a donkey. Dial pound 250 on your cell and say the bull if you've been hurt in a construction accident. That's pound 250 from your cell and say the bull.